talent. We have to get together and have a meal, Jim, with our spouses. Jim, I begin by saying the preface to this. I have a son-in-law on active duty in the Navy. I have a son on active duty in the Navy. I have a nephew on active duty in the Navy. I'm a civilian, but the fetching Mrs. Hewitt's naval service family tradition dates back to 1863. It is unbroken in that period of time. So we care a lot about the Navy. Even though I'm a civilian, I'm surrounded by Navy. How you feel about the Navy this morning?
The Navy's got problems, and I go to what I think the biggest problem is, and the reason for which Spencer was fired, and that's what happened, is they haven't made significant progress towards a 350 ship Navy, and they can't get the Ford carrier built. And Spencer was on the way out all summer long because of that. I mean, this kind of incompetence, which Admiral Gilday admitted in his confirmation hearing, is unacceptable in the world of today. And no, they don't have enough money. You and I have talked about that. We can't do everything we need to do with these top lines, but they're not going to get more money unless they spend what they've got well. And so, yeah, it was time for a move. There's no
Now,
question
have
about
they tried, Jim Talent? You took yourself early out of the opportunity to become the Secretary of the Navy. I know you have stuff on your plate, but do they have the opportunity to reset to 355 and drive it home? Whether with Undersecretary Modley, whether a replacement for him, along with the new NAVSEC who's been named, the ambassador to Norway, is going to come over and do it. I'm sure he'll be confirmed. Do they have enough time to actually deliver other than a sign saying, we'll get to 355? I mean, a plan, ship count, yards, material
Yeah,
lineup.
they can. I think they can get a plan together pretty quickly. But power is the result of intention, or the product of an intention and capability. Intention can change quickly. Capability can't. You can't flip a switch and all of a sudden, revitalize the shipyards so we can be producing 2 ships a month, which is, what I'd like. Now, having said that, we could be making more progress than we're making, and that's what's so frustrating. And want to see the Navy commit to that. It's going to have to involve a lot of low-end ships. They're going to have the right high-low-end mix. The missile frigate is a step in the right direction, although I think it's become too costly. So the answer is they can begin making progress right away. And in terms of timing, well, I mean, we needed it yesterday. I think we have some time, but a lot depends on the intentions of the Chinese, and we don't know what those are.
Now, Jim, I want to take you back to your days as a member of the House, not a member of the Senate. House Democrats are beginning to fray. One fell through the ice and said there is an impeachment. The ice crack was pretty big. They're swallowing up Democrats left and right as independents turn decidedly against impeachment. How long will do members actually, quote, go home and hear from the voters? Did that actually happen?
Oh, yeah. And, particularly for the members that go home and have scheduled public meetings, which is, pretty common. I used to schedule a fair amount of them, although typically I did it around a topic because I just thought that was better in terms of, people knew what you were talking about. But, oh, yeah, and today in the day of social media, they're hearing from people. And the underlying problem here, is the president was entitled to be concerned about corruption in Ukraine, including corruption involving Hunter Biden. I mean, as you said from the beginning, I remember I did an interview when all this broke with you, and you said, I looked at this Hunter Biden thing, and, it smells. It does. The president was entitled to want an investigation of that, and it's simply not in the category. I don't think it's an offense, much less an impeachable offense, and I think that's what they're running into. And on top of that, this whole thing's been handled in a very high-handed manner which the public doesn't like. So I think the speaker's been proved correct. I mean, her instinct was clearly from the beginning
not to do this.
Right. Exactly.
I just read to Brett Stevens the January 11th, 2017 article by Ken Vogel and David Stern in the Politico. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. Kyiv officials are scrambling to make amends with the president-elect after quietly working to boost Clinton. And the whole article is full of this. This is before he became president. It's not like there's not a predicate.
Well, and if we have a trial in the Senate, and you focused on the various options that the leader has, all of this stuff is relevant. If we're going to talk about involvement with Ukrainians political matters, all of that's going to come out too. And so, I mean, I just think that this thing, if they get the votes, and if they don't get the votes, it's bad for the Democrats. If they do, it may be worse.
I think that's it. I think if they don't get the votes, the resistance challenges some Democrats in primaries. If they do get the votes, a lot of those red seats are lost that they got in 2018. A lot of people looking around at each other saying, what's in it for me? And they want to run away. Jim Talent, follow him on Twitter at Jim Talent. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend.